Hey, I hope you're doing well. I just wanted to make a quick video here and talk about a current event and a situation which is important to me. And I'm not 100% sure how to address this, so if I come about as being awkward on this subject, or I come about as being even uneducated or not speaking clearly about it, please forgive me. I'm doing my best here. It's also 7 o'clock in the morning on a Monday, so you can give me a little credit for that. I want to talk about racism. I want to talk about the problem that we're having in a local society, in a country like America, and in the world. And what I want to address is the fact that many people go about fighting racism by dealing with symptoms. Let me back up a little bit. We have the ability right now to address this subject like we haven't had the ability in a very long time. We have very charged events, like the death of this man in Staten Island by chokehold. He's a black man. It was a white officer or white officers. There's no indictment or no charges pressed and found not guilty, I guess it would be. We have this man in Ferguson who was shot by a white officer. And so you can look at those situations and you can blame the officer, you can blame the man or the boy, you can blame whoever you want, but the fact is, regardless of how you see those situations, right now a lot of people are paying attention to that subject. And so both of those situations give us the ability to talk to people and to deal with issues that normally would not be something we could just bring up and talk about at any length. And so, as I was saying a minute ago, a lot of people deal with symptoms of racism. If the officers were acting in a racist manner, which a lot of people believe they were, then that is a symptom of racism. And if you believe that me being a white male, have white privilege or have some ability to succeed or to act in a way that maybe you or someone you know cannot, that would be a symptom of racism. That would not be racism alone, but it's a symptom. And so now we have a situation where people are just going at this problem with emotions and with all the energy that's within them because they see these symptoms. And I want to warn you and me and everyone else watching this, obviously, to not just treat the symptoms. We have an opportunity. If a snowstorm was coming and we had rock salt here in the Northeast, you'd be selling that rock salt like crazy. If you had a convenience store, you'd be selling bread or milk like crazy. People flock to the stores to buy those things. They want to hear, they want to buy, they want to have what is needed supposedly for those storms or for that situation. Well, right now we have a racial storm going on in the news and in all types of media, in our communities, in our discussions on Facebook, and anywhere that you go. People are talking about this. We have an opportunity to sell the message of what I personally would call anti-racism. And so you can walk into a situation and you can talk about Ferguson, or you can talk about Staten Island or New York City, and you can talk about these situations, and you may be 100% right in your perspective on what has happened there, but you're dealing with a symptom. The symptom is great to deal with. It makes people feel better. If I was dehydrated and you see a symptom of a dry mouth and you gave me water, maybe it'll help. But if I have a brain tumor and you see me with a headache and you give me an aspirin, it's not going to help. There are times when dealing with symptoms helps, and there are times that dealing with symptoms does not help. Right now, the symptoms of racism are all around us, and everybody sees them, and everybody's talking about them. We need to deal with those symptoms, but more importantly, we need to deal with a root cause. We need to deal with racism at its core. What causes these symptoms? And so if you're in a group, which I'm a part of a couple of groups, and you're talking about this stuff, and somebody comes along and says, I don't want to talk about the root cause, I only want to talk about the symptom, that person is actually undermining progress towards erasing racism in our world. What they're actually doing is taking the situation that could be changing people's hearts and their mindsets and exposing them to different cultures and different thought patterns, and instead is focusing them on one symptom and saying, we're gonna yell about this, we're gonna fight about this, we're gonna work through this, and we're gonna change the world through fixing the symptom. And it doesn't work that way. You can't heal a problem by dealing with symptoms only. Lately, in the past probably week, I've been trying to work with a number of people, and I'm sorry for calling you out. Nobody will know who you are unless you're in that group. But I've been trying to work with a number of people on this issue. And what keeps coming up is they keep saying, you can't speak to this. You can't bring up this subject. You can't do that because of white privilege. You don't even understand. You're right, I probably don't. I see some of it. I certainly don't see all of it. I can't understand your perspective. You can't understand mine. But what I do know is that if you focus on only that, I'll never be exposed to your thoughts. I'll never be exposed to your perspective. And so I'm not going to learn. And I'm not just talking about me. I'm talking about society in general. If you focus on only that, there are people all around you who will never learn your perspective, who will never learn the lessons that you've already learned. We need to focus on the root problem. Racism as a whole, whether it's white privilege or, and this will upset some people, black privilege, which exists in some communities and places in the world. Racism as a whole needs to be destroyed. Needs to be undermined. It needs to be worked against in every way possible. But we cannot alienate an entire group of people who's different from us, who thinks different from us, who may act different from us, simply because they're not seeing it the way we are. I want to deal with symptoms. I want to heal people's hearts. I want to heal the hurt, and I want to give people opportunities that they don't have now. But more importantly, I want to create a future where an entire race of beings, human beings, the human race, does not have the problem of racism. And the symptom is not the way to fix it. By dealing with that symptom, we actually may cause additional problems. Fight racism at its core. Go at it with everything in your being, but do not alienate an entire group of people simply because they don't see things the way you do, or think the way you do, or have your perspective in some other way, shape, or form. You need to embrace those people. You need to bring them in. You need to educate them. You need to love them and not alienate them by saying you can't talk about this or you can talk about that, because their perspective is just as important to yours. You might be blind to something. Think about that. You might learn something from them. And as we all learn from one another and fight the core problem, the actual problem that causes all of these symptoms, then change will occur. So I just want to encourage you to think about that right now. Maybe a real hard pill to swallow, a real tough message, and again, I have a lot to learn, so again, this may come across in a faulty way. Please forgive me if it does. I'm doing my best here. I want to see change happen, and so I encourage you to do the same, and that's all that I ask. God bless you guys. Have a great day.